to mayoral proclamation declaring the existence of a local emergency dated February 25th, 2020. Before we proceed further, I'd like to ask Commission Staff Member Ronald Contreras, who's acting as our moderator, to explain some procedures for today's remote meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The minutes of this meeting will reflect that due to the COVID-19 health emergency and to protect Commission members, city employees, and the public, the meeting rooms of City Hall are closed. However, Commission members and staff will be participating in today's meeting remotely. This precaution is taken pursuant to the various local, state, and federal orders, declarations, and directives. Commission members will attend the meeting through video conference and participate in the meeting to the same extent as if they were physically present. Please note that today's meeting is being live cablecast on SF.gov TV, streamed live online at sfgovtv.org/ethicslive. Once again, sfgovtv.org/ethicslive. Public comments will be available on each item on this agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Comments or opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available via phone call by calling 1-415-655-0001. Again, the number is 1-415-655-0001. Access code is 187-871-3337. Again, the access code is 187-871-3337, followed by the pound sign. Then press pound again to join as an attendee. You will hear a beep when you are connected to the meeting. You will be automatically muted and in listening mode only. When your item of interest comes up, dial *3 to raise your hand and be added to the public comment line. You will then hear you have raised your hand to ask a question. Please wait until the host calls on you. The line will be silent as you wait your turn to speak. Ensure that you are in a quiet location. Before you speak, mute the sound of any equipment around you, including television, radio, or computer. It is especially important that you mute your computer if you are watching via the web link to prevent feedback and echo when you speak. When the system message says, "Your line has been unmuted," this is your turn to speak. You will hear staff say, "Welcome, caller." You are encouraged to state your name clearly. As soon as you begin speaking, you will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you change your mind and wish to withdraw yourself from the public comment line, press *3 again. You will hear the system say you have lowered your hand. Once your 3 minutes have expired, staff will thank you and mute you. You will hear your line has been muted. Attendees who wish to speak during other public comment periods may stay on the line and listen for the next public comment opportunity and should raise their hands to enter the public comment line by pressing *3 when their next item of interest comes up. Public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the Commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Once again, written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Thank you, Madam Chair. You are muted. I'm going to unmute you.
There we go. All right. I swear I'll get it right. So with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order out loud. Gavel down with the moderator. Would you please proceed with item 1, the Commission roll call?
Commissioners, please unmute your microphone so that you can verbally state your presence at today's meeting after your name is called. Chair Ambrose.
Present.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Bush.
Present.
Commissioner Chu.
Present.
Vice Chair Lee.
Present.
Madam Chair, with 5 members present and accounted for, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to go straight to agenda item number 2, and that is public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda. Moderator, can you please proceed with the announcements regarding public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ethics Commission is now receiving public comment on agenda item number 2 remotely in this meeting. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. If you joined the meeting earlier to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get in line to speak. If you have not already done if you have not already done so, please press *3. It is important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue. As pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once you are in the queue and standing by, the system will prompt you when it's your turn to speak. So it's important that you call from a quiet location. Please address your comment to the Commission as a whole and not to individual members. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are any callers in the queue. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on agenda item number 2, public comments on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. Stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
Public comment on item number 2 is closed, and I'm going to call agenda item number 3. This is the consent calendar. There are 2 items on the consent calendar: the amended draft minutes of the Commission's February 12th, 2021 regular meeting that we carried over from the last meeting, and then also to adopt the draft minutes of the Commission's March 12th, 2021 regular meeting. If any member of the public intend to offer public comment for the consent item, they should call in now and enter *3 to be added to the public comment queue. Item 3 is on consent. These items are considered routine. If a commissioner objects to an item, it can be removed and discussed. Does any commission member wish to sever either of the draft minute meetings from the consent calendar? I need to get my grid.
No.
Okay, sorry. For some reason, I can see all of your faces, but I don't have the screen that shows whether or not you raised your hand. I'll get to that later. Anyway, so if there is no one who wants to pull them off consent, can we have public comment on the consent calendar? Moderator, please provide the instructions for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And what you might want to do too is there is a button at the very bottom of your screen that says participants. If you click on that, it should show you. Oh,
great, got it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. The other commission is now receiving public comment on consent calendar item 3 remotely in this meeting. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you joined the meeting early to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get in line to speak. If you have not already, please press *3. It's important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, as pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once you're in the queue and standing by, the system will prompt you when it's your turn to speak. So it's important that you call from a quiet location. Please address your comment to the commissioners as a whole and not to individual members. We are checking to see if there are any callers in the queue. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. You've just joined this meeting. We are currently taking public comment on consent calendar item number 3, amended draft minutes on the Commission's February 12th, 2021 regular meeting. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
Public comment on item number 3 is closed. Can I have a motion to adopt the draft minutes, the amended minutes of February 12th and what are those dates again? And the draft minutes for March 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. A second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Chu. Can you please call the roll, moderator?
A motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush,
Yes.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 5 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call agenda item, I think it's labeled number 5. Yes, discussion and possible action on a request for a waiver of San Francisco Campaign Governmental Conduct Code, section 3.224, subsection A, compensated advocacy prohibition for Commissioner Ruchira Nageswaran. And my apologies if I've mispronounced the name. Pat Ford, you were going to present on this item, and are we going to expect the applicant to make a presentation or just simply be available to answer questions?
Thanks, Chair Ambrose. This is Pat Ford, Senior Policy and Legislative Affairs Counsel. I think it's really up to you. I know Commissioner Nageswaran and also Hank Heckel from the Mayor's Office are both here. I'm sure they'd be glad to provide you with whatever information you would find helpful. I don't know that they have a presentation planned per se. I would be glad to.
Then go ahead, just proceed. We've all received the materials in advance, and I'm sure the commissioners are familiar with the packet. So if you can go ahead and just present what you had for the item, and if the commissioners have any questions, I'm glad they're available to answer them.
Great. Yeah, I will keep my remarks brief. I'll just note that, as you said, this is a waiver request for the ban on compensated advocacy by city officers. Essentially, this is a rule that prohibits San Francisco officials from receiving compensation in exchange for communicating with other city officials or employees to attempt to influence a government decision. So you can think of this as prohibiting officials from engaging in what are akin to lobbying activities, trying to persuade other government officials or employees to act one way or the other. Officials are not allowed to receive compensation to do that. Nonetheless, there's a waiver provision, and for this particular rule, waivers can only be requested by commissioners who must be appointed to represent particular trades, professions, or business groups or unions. So it's a fairly narrow category, and I think you'll see from reading the memo that I discussed that and mentioned that since it is a narrow category and the law does identify this particular group as individuals who might have a heightened need for a waiver, that extra weight should be given to those factors that indicate a need for a waiver. And you'll see that I did recommend in the memo that a waiver be granted in this situation, but that the waiver be narrowly tailored to specifically meet the situation of Commissioner Nageswaran. So that's all I'll mention. Be glad to answer any questions. As I mentioned, Commissioner Nageswaran and Mr. Heckel are here, can answer questions as well.
So is there any comment or question from any commissioner? I see Commissioner Chu, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I had a question for Commissioner Nageswaran. I just wanted to confirm with her that the scope of the waiver, as recommended by staff, is sufficiently broad for you to pursue your work.
So we've had discussions over the last couple of months on, the work that I do in historic preservation and just the relevance of the different tasks I perform. I am a member of a small firm. There's only 2 of us. So There's a lot of it that I work on, and we try to accommodate what those parameters would be. But I feel comfortable that we're, going forward with something that is workable.
Great. I wanted to make sure that if the waiver were granted, that it would be sufficient, for you to be able to pursue your work and serve also on the commission. So thank you for your service. I also think it's really critical, as the mayor had noted in her letter, that creating a more diverse and representative body of city commissioners is a very important goal. And I think that the waiver helps serve that purpose as well. And would like to put forward a motion to approve the waiver as presented by, recommended by staff.
I also see Commissioner Bush has his hand up. So somebody is, hopefully not me, somebody's reverbing. Commissioner Bush, did you want to make a comment?
I did. My experience in the past working in the mayor's office is that it's a real challenge to find a diverse group of people who come particularly from small firms. And I think that they have done a good job, especially in those appointments that require certain professional credentials. And so I support the motion by Commissioner Chu, and I want to congratulate the mayor for having reached out to create greater diversity, both in terms of the membership and in the representation from smaller businesses.
So can I take that as a second to Commissioner Chu's motion?
You may indeed.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion and second. Moderator, can you please call for public comment?
Madam Chair, I had a question, a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to raise it. I'm thinking, oh, I see it down to
It's like way little at the bottom.
so
Yeah.
I think I'll go like everybody else.
Okay, that's fine.
So I don't want to derail this with the two candidates. I want to know when it's appropriate to ask a larger question about follow-up accountability and enforcement of these waivers. So I just want to know when is the appropriate time to discuss that. Certainly, I want to accept the staff's recommendation. Don't want to have that be a part of Mr. Hyland or the motion before us, but just want to know when the appropriate time is to raise that, Madam Chair.
So unless Director Pelham wants to respond, I was going to say, and we can, it can come up under the policy prioritization discussion about work that you want the commission to do, or for that matter, we typically do a staff discussion and report on enforcement.
Got it.
Director Pelham, do you have anything to add? All right, then
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. Mr. Moderator, would you please call for public comment?
Would help if I unmuted myself. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action on request for waiver of SF Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code Section 3.224A, compensated advocacy prohibition for Commissioner Ruchira Nageswaran. If not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
Public comment on item number 5 is closed. Can you please call the roll on the motion before us to approve the waiver?
A motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 5 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Commissioner, for your service. I'm going to go ahead then and call agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on request for waiver of San Francisco Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code, section 3.234, subsection A, subsection 2, for post-employment restriction for Aaron Hyland. And again, Pat Ford's going to speak. But before we start, I know that Commissioner Bell has an excused absence from 10 to 11. So Commissioner Bell, whenever you have to sign off, just please go ahead. Thank you. All right. Pat?
See you in a bit. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chair Ambrose. So this item is similar but different in ways that I will highlight from the item that you just heard. So this item is a request for a waiver from a post-employment restriction. So the item that you just heard was the compensated advocacy ban. That applies to current city officials. In contrast, this rule at issue here applies to individuals who have recently departed from city service. That's why it's a post-employment restriction. There are at least 3 post-employment restrictions for which a waiver can be granted. The particular one before you is for communications between the former official and the former official's department within the 12 months after the official leaves office. And specifically, the rule prohibits former officials from communicating with their former department to influence a government decision. And the communication is on behalf of someone else. So again, it's akin to a lobbying communication where a former official is communicating with their former department on behalf of someone else to influence a decision. That's the crux of the rule. So in this case, we have Mr. Aaron Hyland, who is a former member of the Historic Preservation Commission, and he has requested that he be able to communicate with staff at the Planning Department and with the Planning Commission. And you'll see the analysis in the memo again highlights that he is or was an officer who had to be appointed to represent a particular profession. And in contrast to the post-employment, or rather the compensated advocacy ban, which can only be granted to those kinds of officials, the post-employment restriction at issue here, it can be granted to anyone, but there's a very high bar that must be met. But it can be granted in particular to these kinds of officials that must be appointed to represent a particular profession. And I believe there's a lower bar that the code and the regs establish for that narrow group of individuals. Again, that's recognizing that those particular qualifications create some additional complications or hurdles, and I believe the code is trying to be sensitive to that. So there's a little bit more weight that should be given to the requester's need for a waiver. So again, I'm glad to answer any questions about the recommendation. I again recommend that the waiver be granted in this case in a very narrowly tailored way to serve the situation that Mr. Hyland described in his request. And Mr. Hyland is also here and can answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you to you, Pat, for the careful analysis and discussion. I think it helped the commissioners understand both the law, the policy, and how it applied to these facts. And I'm prepared to ask for a motion to approve this, unless Commissioner Chu, you have your hand up. You have a comment?
Just a question for Mr. Hyland, the same one that I had for Commissioner Nageswaran, that as the waiver is drafted or recommended by, staff, will that allow you to, pursue your practice of architecture?
Thank you, Commissioner Shu. This is Commissioner Hyland. Yes, the waiver that Pat and I worked out was that I would not be presenting before my former commission, but in my practice as a sole practitioner, I do have the need to communicate with the department staff. So this waiver would allow me to do that. So yes, thank you for your question and your consideration.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So can I get a motion and a second before we call for public comment? Commissioner Lee, you moved the item. I'm happy to second it. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Moderator, can you please call for public comment on agenda item number 6?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on request for waiver of SF Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code, section 3.234, subsection A, subsection 2, post-employment restriction for Aaron Hyland. If not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment. 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
Thank you. Public comment is closed on agenda item number 6. Can I please have you call the roll on the motion to approve the waiver of post-employment restrictions for Aaron Hyland?
A motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell. Is he?
No, Commissioner Bell's excused.
Yep. Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 4 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. I'm debating, because we are not don't have the benefit of Commissioner Bell's presence for the staff report. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't make more sense to go to agenda item 8 and hear the executive director's report, because he can review that and follow up. I think there's more kind of a educational and substantive element to item number 7, the the legislative issues and policy issues. So if that would be acceptable to everyone, I think I'd like to take item 8 out of order and then return for item 7. I don't see anybody screaming. Okay. All right. So Director Pelham, I'm going to go ahead then and call agenda item 8, which is the executive director's report and update on various programmatic and operational highlights of Ethics Commission staff activities since the Commission's previous meeting. And we do have good news, so we're happy to hear it. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you, Chair Ambrose and commissioners. Yeah, this was a very happy executive director's report to write on several fronts. And I just wanted to touch first on some information around the just passed annual statement of economic interest or Form 700 filing process, which is always a big deal in our office and for city officials and employees, and certainly for the public who has the benefit of that information once that those forms are filed. And then also, I just wanted to give you a brief update on budget news, and then to spread joy with our hiring updates. So first off, in terms of the Form 700 filing process, you all are aware, and I think the public who's visited our websites is familiar with the annual April 1st filing deadline for statements of economic interest, where over 500 people file with our office as electronic filers, either department heads, elected officials, or board and commission members. And they file their Form 700 as well as an ethics certification of training form that they've completed their annual ethics and sunshine training. And then there are the additional 3,000 plus filers who we're going to be working with in the coming year to enable electronic filing for, but at present they are still filing with their departments. The state agency that issues the Form 700 required those to be issued or submitted on paper with wet signatures. So those are in the process of still being, have been collected by departmental filing officers. They will be reporting to us on Monday, the 12th, pursuant to city law, about what employees, if any, have not filed by the time, by the April 1st deadline. In preparation for the post-filing period, there are a couple of things I just wanted to highlight for you and for those who may be watching or listening to this meeting, and that is that on our website, on our main page, we created some new information and context that we switched to post-filing so that the public can go to the web page and land on a page that speaks about the annual filing process, where they can access the forms of who filed and to describe sort of what that process is. We're adding in the coming early next week 2 additional landing pages to that, so that it helps build more information about what constitutes a Form 700 filing, like what are the kinds of interests that have to be disclosed, and then separately, why is it that certain positions file and others don't? So some explanation and background for the public on that as well, so that we can continue to increase information about the Form 700 filing process and the importance of that process. This morning, we have also updated that information to reflect those individuals who are electronic filers with our office, in this case, board or commission members, elected officials, or department heads, who have, as of yesterday, not yet filed one or other of the required April 1st statements. So what I can share with you is an update to my executive director's report this morning, as of yesterday, at end of the day, we had all elected officials who filed both their financial disclosure Form 700 and their annual training of certification of ethics and sunshine training. As to board and commission members, there were 26 board and commission members who did not file one or the other of the statements required. About 12 didn't file the Form 700, 20 in total didn't file their annual ethics training certification. Our office reached out to them on April the 2nd to let them know that we have not received the statements, and so those will be working their way through the process. And we identify on the page as well what happens potentially if somebody does not, if somebody fails to file timely. Lastly, as to department heads, all department heads filed their Form 700 as required. There were 4 individuals who did not file a certification that they completed their annual ethics and sunshine training obligation. So that information is provided for the public, and we'll be working with folks, obviously, to try and secure those statements and those training certifications as quickly as possible. I'm sure you may have more questions about that, but perhaps I'll just skip quickly to the budget item. And then I can come back to any questions that you might have on the report in general. But since the last commission meeting, Deputy Director Gayatri Taikandil and I had the opportunity to meet with the Mayor's Budget Office to review our budget request. You'll recall that our budget request for fiscal year 22, that starts July 1st, called for a 28% increase in our operating budget, and focused certainly on retaining the staffing and resource levels that we have currently, but also to strengthen our enforcement program and institute practical ethics training for city employees and contractors, as well as establish the regular program performance reporting tools that the Budget and Legislative Analyst Audit Report called for in its August 2020 report of our commission operations. We met with the mayor's budget staff to remind them and encourage and urge that we continue to have the critical resources that we need. We are continuing in conversation with that office. We have not yet heard specifics about the ethics training or the enforcement resources that we've sought, or the performance analyst that we're seeking in this year's budget. The mayor did, as you may recall, or you may have seen, issued a press release on March 31st, talking about the over $630 million in federal stimulus funds that are going to be coming, that the city will have. And that will then be preventing the layoffs and cuts to basic services, as we understand it, in the coming 2-year budget cycle that begins July 1st. So that is, of course, good news for our department as well as others. And we're looking forward to hearing more about that as we go forward into the budget discussions leading to the mayor's budget proposal. But at this point, we are continuing to press for the essential critical needs that we have that have not yet been funded. So we will continue to post information as we get it on our budget webpage on the commission's website. But that's the news that we have at this point, is that the conversations are continuing, but the $630 million in federal stimulus funds has been helpful in terms of apparently securing our foundational budget, our operating budget. But lastly, I wanted to let you know, as I did in my executive director's report, of our hiring news. After a really busy winter, we have had, I think, great success in bringing into our office 5 new positions filled. 3 of our new staff started just this week on Monday. I've invited them to be a part of this meeting today, and then we'll be happy to introduce to you at the May meeting 2 other individuals who will be joining us on April the 19th. But joining us at this meeting, we were able to, I'll welcome Elaine Bozanelos, who joins the Engagement and Compliance Division. She's our new client support specialist. She joined us Monday. Hi, Elaine. And she'll be working with Rachel and team to provide technical assistance, frontline work, also about supporting departmental filers for the Statement of Economic Interest e-filing project that's underway, and other commission programs. She has fascinating experience and background and terrific energy that she brings to this work. So we're really delighted to welcome Elaine and look forward to you all getting a chance to work with her in the coming months and years. Michael Canning also joins us from for working with Pat Ford in the policy division. You will get a chance to talk with and see Michael probably quite often as we go forward with all of the policy work that's on deck. Michael's major focus will be working with us on the government ethics policy project, and we'll be helping to provide that sort of focused resources for the work that we're doing to strengthen the city's ethics laws following the federal corruption investigations that have been ongoing. Michael has some great experience with a variety of non-governmental organizations in his past, but one that you are all probably very familiar with is he worked as voting information director at MapLight. So he's been very familiar with campaign finance work and is eager to get steeped in all things ethics and governmental disclosures as well. So we welcome Michael. And last but not least for today is Jean-Pierre Alvin, C2, goes by Alvin. And Alvin is our new systems analyst in the Electronic Disclosure and Data Analysis Division. Hi, Alvin. Alvin is going to be working closely with Tyler Field and Jared and Stephen Massey on the oversight and maintenance and enhancements of all of our electronic filing systems for registration, disclosure, and so forth of all of the programs. So he will be helping us to be kind of our frontline person where we have needs for maintenance of the systems and support for staff and others in working through those systems. Alvin has most recently been an IT manager for a company where he developed projects for clients' business needs, and he previously was a data analyst at the Institute of Transportation Studies at UC Davis, where he got his BS in computer science with a minor in statistics. So I think we're glad that we have that expertise on staff as well, and it's really great to welcome you, Alvin. I have two other announcements in staffing. We have Eamon Wilson, who is going to be joining us as our new investigator with Jeff Pierce's group on April the 19th. He has been just finished up, he's been working with the California Auditor's Office, and so we'll be bringing a range of analytical skill and audit focused background to his work on the investigative staff. And also Linda Fong, you'll get a chance to meet next month. I'm delighted to say Linda will be joining us as our Audit and Compliance Review Manager to lead the audit division. She has a lot of experience working in the audit area, leading audits, leading audit teams, and also very experienced in continuous improvement and working on risk management issues in the financial services sector while she was at Wells Fargo. So look forward to introducing her to you next month. But it has been a very busy several months getting to this point. Pleased to be able to introduce these folks to you, and just want to acknowledge the work that all of our staff did in getting us to this point, as well as the support that we were given by the Department of Human Resources to get us across the finish line with these positions. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for me. Thanks.
Thank you. I do see some commissioner hands up. I'm assuming they're for this item. Commissioner Chu.
Thank you, Chair Ambrose, and what a wonderful executive director's report this month. So I had a few questions, and just starting from the top about the Form 700 filings. I may have missed it, but my first question is regarding the percentage. I think the 94% is up there with the historical trends of filing, and so I think that's great. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I may not have all the facts straight, but regarding those commissioners or other filers who preside on boards or commissions, if they have not filed, and I don't know if there are any in that small group who have yet to file, they are not permitted to participate in the proceedings of their body. So how do we, I'm sure they're notified of that, but how do we track whether or not that is happening? And what are the consequences for participating in a proceeding that they, are not permitted to participate in because of their Form 700 filing deficit?
Yes, thank you for the question, Commissioner Chu. So yes, there were 26, I believe, individuals who were members of boards and commissions who did not file. That list is on our website now. And so, yes, the first step was to notify them of their late filing. That notice also went not just to the individual commission member or trustee or alternate board member who didn't file on time, but it went to their appointing authority and the head of the department. So that was intended to both draw that attention to the eye of the appointing authority so that they can exercise their encouragement of their appointee to make sure that they get the forms in on time and comply with the law. But they also, it's to help also provide a number of eyes on ensuring that the processes don't proceed with that individual's involvement. Clearly, if there is somebody who's acting on a matter, those will be matters of public record. And as you know, there are penalties that can apply, not just for late filing, but for under the law for acting when the law prohibits them from doing so. So that would be handled if there were issues of that sort in the normal course of a review of actions and potential enforcement action.
So I'd like to ask at the May meeting if you could provide an update on these 26 stragglers. Just hopefully that number is not 26 next month. That they will bring that down to 0. And we'd like to understand if in the intervening time whether any of them have participated in a proceeding that they should not participate in. Then my second question was regarding the budget. So thank goodness for the $630 million federal stimulus. And did I hear you correctly that we cautiously optimistic, fingers crossed, that there will be no cuts to the budget? But do you have a sense that there is a possibility of receiving the full 28% increase that we had asked for?
I don't have that sense yet. I don't have information to know whether that's going to be something the mayor's office proposes or not. This is the time of year where there are a lot of questions back and forth about what would that look like? What would that work involve? How is it needed? How is it different from the current resources you have? So that kind of information is what we have been and will continue to be providing to the mayor's budget office as requested, and certainly in conversations with the Board of Supervisors as well, because we do know that the $1 million or so that those projects would involve is sadly a drop in the bucket for the kinds of money that the city has had to spend on following up issues after they've occurred. So we're continuing to press that point with the mayor's office. We'll continue to make that point with Board of Supervisors as we have conversations around the budget process with them as well. And as soon as we know something more definitively, we'll get back to you as well, certainly.
Well, do let us know if we as commissioners can help, in that process of educating and emphasizing the importance of prevention, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as they say. And then lastly, the hiring news, bravissimi, oh my goodness. Elaine Bozamelos, Michael Canning, Alvin C2, Linda Fong, and Eamon Wilson they look just absolutely outstanding and stellar. So delighted that they have decided to join the commission. And I, for one, can't wait to hear from them in upcoming meetings and just see how much traction we're going to get and how much acceleration in the work going forward. So congratulations. I know it's been an incredibly long, arduous, painful journey on the hiring, but thank you for persevering and bringing in such terrific team members. And thank you to the Department of HR for helping make that happen as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I have Commissioner Lee, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add my congratulations and was now I speed ahead, and this is really exciting news. So welcome Elaine, welcome Michael, and welcome to my fellow Davis, Aggie, Alvin. Now that we have personnel changes, and given what's been happening not only in the city but across the country, I like the executive director to give us a 6-month update on our racial equity plan. I think by June it should be our 6-month period. So if you can give us an update around that time on the commission's operational plan and some work that you have done around this plan, that would be really appreciated.
I plan to do that. Thank you.
Commissioner Bush, you had a comment?
I have a few questions. Let me start with the Form 700s. Where can we find the list of those who have not yet filed on the deadline? I didn't see it on our webpage.
It is when you go to our main webpage at sfethics.org and link on the green tab that says, I think it says start here or learn more. Excuse me, let me just, a moment. So on our homepage currently, we're showing the Ethics Commission meeting is in progress. So after the meeting is over, once that it'll go back to the standard banner that we have. It will show you a tab that says follow this or learn more, and it will take you to what we call a landing page. So the minute you click on the green box on the home page, it will take you to a landing page, and that landing page provides context about the filing, but also provides the list of those individuals who have not yet filed as of as of April 8th, who were required to file one or other forms with our office electronically.
In the past, there have been certain commissions that had a higher than usual rate of non-filing. And in some cases, it even jeopardizes whether or not the commission can have a legitimate quorum. Are any of these non-filers jeopardizing the ability of a commission to have a quorum?
I don't know the answer. As I sit here, I would need to take a look at the list again. And So I don't know that answer offhand. Since we are in sort of in meeting mode, I'm not able to link on that page directly. But perhaps if there is, if Rachel Gage or somebody on staff who has that information accessible can give us an information during this meeting, I'll be sure to let you know.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On a different question, the board budget and legislative analyst had submitted their review of the Ethics Commission on August 10th, I believe it was. And their recommendation included the commission to establish essentially benchmarks for measuring our performance. Have those been established? Now it's been, what, 7 months, 8 months later?
Some have and some have not. Most have not, because that's been contingent on us getting our staffing levels to the point where we have the bandwidth and the priority time and focus to be able to do that. Those are things, as you know, that are on our radar for completion or making progress on so that we can report to you by June 30th of this year. So that is something that we have as a priority with, for example, a new audit manager starting in the middle of this month. That's one of the things that will be started with her tenure now, is the ability to put those together so that we can be reporting regularly. And we've also highlighted in our budget request for the coming year that in order to do that across the board and sustain it effectively across the board, it's something that has to be woven into the fabric of our organization, and we need the resources to do that. We've asked for that performance reporting analyst to work with our deputy director, Gayatri Teikendil, to help ensure that not only that we create these statistics, but once they're created, we actually monitor them regularly, track them regularly, use them regularly for data-driven decisions.
So if I understand what you just said correctly, it'd be about 10 months after the recommendation was made before we'll see the results of it?
Yes.
Does that seem like an acceptable period of time to you?
Commissioner Bush, I think that if it's never acceptable to not have things done immediately. It is quite the case that we are not able to do things immediately because of the competing resources and competing priorities that we have to manage. So, I'm not happy that we don't have a report card established, every quarter at this year to bring to you, but it has not been possible to create that. That does not mean, though, that the work to put that foundation in place, it doesn't mean that work has not been happening. It means we don't have the fruition of that work yet to report to you. That is what we're hoping to do by having the positions filled, by having staffing working to do that, and by asking for the staffing that we need to sustain it effectively in the coming years, because we don't have that ability at present, given our staffing levels, even as they have been filled in this past year.
I understand that, and I hope that in making the presentation to the mayor, you underscore the fact that the commission had to furlough some of its staff for a disaster service in other agencies. And it'd be good to have some quantification of that. So
Thank you.
That's something that needs to be acknowledged as a factor in our compliance. The other area that has come up is the city's 5-year plan for internet. And the plan that was presented to the Board of Supervisors this week did include a number of categories for the Ethics Commission. Can you tell us how they came up with those, that list, and in what way we've reached out to our customers for input on that?
Well, I think just for the benefit of the other commissioners who may not be familiar with this report, this is the Department of Technology issues with its Commission on Information Technology issues a sort of a strategic plan or strategic vision every year. And this report was one that was on the committee rules or Board of Supervisors committee meeting this week. It's a broad report that's with 80 pages that speaks to what the city's vision is for information technology services. And as I read the report, just briefly, because I think this is something that may be relevant to agendize for a future, work with Chair Ambrose to agendize for a future meeting, since it's not something that we actually have on this particular agenda. But just as very brief background, the report was issued to highlight the city's overarching technology vision, which would be related to things like cybersecurity and infrastructure and replacing legacy systems. And so it's very much focused on a very overarching broad picture for what the city's information technology infrastructure is focused on in these next 5 years. A couple of places in the report, there was information that they had solicited from departments, including ours, I think back in January, maybe last September, December, about the status of digital processes in the department, sort of assessing how far along our departments in their sort of digital maturity, as they call it. And so, like other departments, our staff was tapped for that information as well, and we provided it. So that's part of the appendix to this report. But in short, I think the way where it touches the work that we're going to do. Just as you recall, our commission established a blueprint for accountability back in 2016, which included an e-filing conversion project that was over a series of years to literally move all of our filings and forms into a digital environment. We've done that. We will have completed that by the end of next fiscal year once we have that e-filing for all process in place. And so part of what the IT report that was at the board this week talks about is their goal that next year, as part of budget process, departments will be bringing forward their next sort of strategic vision about how they see their technology needs evolving in the coming years. So that would be part of our normal budget process for FY23. Starting later this year. And through the normal budget public participation process, we would envision bringing forward issues, discussion for the public and the commission prior to our submitting a budget so that we can have that conversation in a more focused way. But in some, we've been doing, I think, a lot of work in fairness that the report has envisioned in terms of web accessibility, mobile accessibility to our forms and information. And we've regularly sought and received support from COIT over the last several years to help move us in that direction. So I'm not sure if that answers your question fully, but that was the basis of that report this week and some of the highlights of the work that we've been doing that's aligned with their report and their vision.
My reading of the report was a little deeper dive by the report than overarching. So there were like 6 or 7 specific items for the Ethics Commission where they indicated that those were priorities for improving the disclosure through the internet. I noticed in my own review of that, things like going on to enforcement actions and looking at the enforcement actions in the past and calling them up, they stop at 2017. There's no enforcement actions that I could find on our site for 2018, 2019, or 2020. And that seems like a pretty significant gap in terms of enforcement about what we're doing. So if that's incorrect, I think it'd be good to have that corrected so that it's very plain what's going on. But
if I respond on that point, I do think that might be incorrect. A couple of notes I would make again, and I think this may be something that warrants a larger agendized discussion if we get very further into the details. But I don't know that it's correct that we don't have enforcement actions listed on our website. So I would like to confirm that and verify that that's the case.
Please do.
But the idea is,
but let me just finish.
If I might just respond to that prior point, though, the issue about what the report identifies related to ethics and not being able to yet submit an online complaint, those are issues that we self-identified and provided to them as part of when they tapped us. So those are not priorities they've identified. Those are priorities that departments we have identified and provided to them for inclusion in this report.
But what you're saying is underscoring exactly the problem I find, which is that all we are doing is one department talking to another department. We are not engaging the public. And it's the public who is the point of all of this. And so when you talk about the fact that the department contacted the other department and told them what we thought, we didn't have any input from the people that we serve. And what we do in the Ethics Commission, more than anything else, is to serve the public. We do not exist to serve city departments. We exist to serve the public of the city. That's a very big difference from other departments. And it ought to be a headline part of anything we're doing. So I'm going to ask that we have an IP meeting on our electronic filing, and that we do that within the next 3 months, so that we do solicit public input on what it is that people are getting, what they're not getting, and what they would like to get.
I appreciate your comments and certainly can work with the chair on scheduling items for future commission meetings to go in more depth on this. With respect, Commissioner Bush, I think we all agree that what we are doing is in fact in support of the public facing side of our work. Public filings so that people can access them and they can understand them more easily. So we are very interested in learning about what the public's take on that is and what the commission's take on that is. And any place that we can strengthen how that information is provided, how it's gathered from the filers in the first place, we're very much interested in hearing that. So certainly the public engagement process that helps elicit what the public is sensing or would like from our information, we all think that's very critical. And I think that is something that we are doing regularly in the materials and work that we're doing on the electronic filing.
Just to underscore that very clearly, if you will have noticed, and I'm sure you have, that the public participation in our commission meetings has dropped to about 0, except for one very active person. And 5 years ago, we would have 20 people who would be participating. And there ought to be an explanation for why we no longer have the level of public engagement that we once had before. So I urge you to give some thought to how that has happened. Because despite your statement that we're very concerned about public engagement, it's not working. It's just plain not working. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump in here. On that last point, I actually see those as two different things. It may be that if there's available information online for people to follow what's happening in our world, and I do want you to follow up on that enforcement issue, because that is kind of a mystery why that would have dropped off if that's what they think. But in any event, going to the looking forward point, I agree with both of you that we should talk more about this in this world, certainly post-pandemic. More and more of our engagement is going to be electronic. And I want, now that you have your performing, reporting analyst position, and hopefully giving them a chance to get up to speed a little bit, the support from the other staff, for your existing staff too, to not be doing 2 jobs, which I know they've been doing. I do think it would be a good thing within the next couple of months to talk about how, and to engage with the public about what form, what additional material, what sort of digests, et cetera, would be helpful for people who are trying to track what's going on in the ethics compliance in the city. So if we can, I'll work with you and Commissioner Bush, we can agendize something in the future. And you're right, we don't want to get too into the substance here with this, because it isn't specifically agendized, but I do appreciate the comments, and I'm glad you were able to follow the board hearing, Commissioner Bush.
And Chair Ambrose, if I might just also make one correction for the record, because I'm not sure where the information is that Commissioner Bush hasn't been able to see, but on our case resolutions website, there is a table that we update every time we have an enforcement action. It was updated most recently in February, and it goes back from February of 21 back through 2016, 2019, 2018. So there is information there, and I'm happy to make sure that the commission sees that so that if there are questions about what's disclosed there, we can get feedback on that. But it is certainly not the case that we have not been posting enforcement action since 2016 or 2018. We have been updating them, posting them regularly, and it's on our website. Thank you. Just wanted to make that clarification.
Yeah, so you might want to follow up if that's in the Ethics Commission report to the board, just so that anybody looking at that won't be misled. And going back to the benchmark issue, I do know that obviously it was something that you addressed in the BLA report, and frankly, from my perspective, I have been taking this in a stepwise approach. First, let's fight for those budget positions, which were authorized last September, but not really funded and able to be filled until now, which frankly, I knew was going to be the case last September, that even if we could get the approval, that's the process. And actually, to be honest with you, that's kind of record time. I'm sure you were very diligent in pursuing that through the city's very laborious HR process. So congratulations on that. But now I think we all agree this is the point. Now that you know what resources you have available, this is a good time to reflect on what our targets are, so that we can present that to the board. And I think it'll dovetail well because you'll be at the board in July on your budget for the coming year. And that's definitely something that we're going to need to be able to speak to is, you know, what was the performance audit findings? What have we accomplished in the year? What resources did we get in April? And how we've been able to marshal them since then. So what I'd like to do now is call for public comment on this item. So Mr. Moderator, can you please read the instructions for public comment? And then what I think I'm going to do is take the next agenda item, which is matters for future commission meetings up, and then we'll go back to agenda item 7 closer to 11. All right. So please, Mr. Moderator.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you've just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 8, discussion of Executive Director's report, an update of various programmatic and operational highlights of Ethics Commission staff activities since the Commission's previous meeting. If you haven't already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. We'll have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
Thank you. That's public comment is closed on agenda item number 8. And now I'm going to again skip over agenda item number 7 and take agenda item number 9, which is discussion and possible action on items for future meetings. If any member of the public intend to offer public comment for this item, they can dial in now and enter *3 to be added to the queue. Do any of my fellow commissioners wish to identify any matters for future meetings? And I think this would be a time, I know we mentioned some as we were going along on the other items, but if we can sort of chronicle them so that we can work with the executive director to get those calendared. And I see some hands up, so I'm going to go with Commissioner Bush. If you wanted to reiterate the point that you made about calendaring our public engagement through technology, I'll call it.
I would like to do that. Thank you, Chair Ambrose. I'd like to have an IP meeting set within the next 3 months, so it's well in advance of submission to our budget on what the public sees as what it's able to get, what it's not able to get, and what it would like to get from our disclosure system, and how those things match up with each other. So, for example, can we tell easily from the system as it exists now whether permit consultants also are working on projects that have retained a separate lobbyist who are lobbying the city? That'll give you some idea of the overlap that's going on, since permit consultants was one of the issues in the controller's report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and any other requests or suggestions from commissioners? I think Commissioner Commissioner Chu, you had mentioned that you want to come back in May and make sure we get an update on the Form 700 filing. I think we can expect that as part of the executive director's report, and hopefully we won't need to do it again in June because we'll have full compliance by May. And then, of course, as Executive Director Pelham mentioned, in June, we will get a report to the commission on the benchmarks that we're continuing to work to identify, as well as, I'm assuming, update on the other recommendations that were made in the BLA report. And I think as part of that discussion, it'll give us an opportunity to prepare to send any message that we want to send to the board, because by then we will have seen the mayor's budget recommendations for the Ethics Commission. With that, if there aren't any further comments, I'm going to call on the moderator to read the instructions for public comment on agenda item number 9.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates that you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on items for future meetings. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
All right, public comment on agenda item 9 is closed. And before I go back and call agenda item number 7, since Commissioner Bell is going to join us again at 11, what I'm going to propose is that we take a 10-minute break now. I've got, it's 11:45 right now. So if we can get back here at 5 minutes to 11, and we'll hear agenda item number 7. I'm going to hold and do the final general public comment at the very end. So if that is okay with everybody, I'll see you back here at 5 minutes to 11. All right. Thank you. If you can put us in practice session.
Yes, thank you.
All right. On the policy report by Pat Ford, or for discussion and possible action. So if you can please proceed, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Chair Ambrose. Yeah, as you mentioned, this item is the monthly staff policy report. I won't go over everything that's in here. I will just highlight that following your request at the last meeting, I included a number of questions that the second phase of the ongoing ethics policy project will seek to explore. And you can see those starting on page 2, going on page 3 of the report. And also I included some tentative dates for a pair of IP meetings, April 13th and April 15th. I think we already know that we need to postpone those to probably the following week. We definitely want to publicize those as widely as we can, and I think we need a little bit more lead time to do that. We also want to reach out to some community groups to invite them, as you encouraged at the last meeting. And I definitely look forward to hearing your suggestions about what community groups specifically we should reach out to. You can feel free to let me know now, or you can email me later, whatever works for you, but that's definitely something we want to spend a little bit more time doing. So I think late April will be more appropriate for those IP meetings. So with that, glad to answer any questions that you might have.
You are muted, Chair Ambrose.
Thank you. So before I take comments from commissioners, I just want to go over a couple of things, make sure we have the big picture. I understand that the controller deferred giving a report on disclosure, enhancements, et cetera, in preference of a report that they're working on that's specific to the whole ecology situation. And so I guess one question I have is when does the controller suggest that they'll get back to the disclosure report? And second, have you been able to engage with them and any members of the board or others and concerned folks about that part of the process, about new legislation on disclosure loopholes, aside from the gift matters that you laid out?
To your first question, I honestly don't know what their timeline is. I haven't gotten any indication from them when they'll pick that up. I had mentioned at earlier meetings what their original timeline was, and that's already long past. So they've clearly adopted a new timeline. They haven't shared one with us. I honestly don't know. To your second question about disclosure, I think what they're looking at in this report is what they're categorizing as ethics reporting. So they're looking at things like, especially the Form 700. I'm just basing the assessment off of the questions I've been asked. I obviously have not seen a draft of their report, so I can't speak to what they're including, but I can speak to what they've been asking us about. They've been asking about the Form 700 and how filing officer reports and paper filings and notices and how everything Form 700 works. And as you know, we're going through a phase of radically changing how the Form 700 works. Paper filings won't be done anymore. All filing will be electronic starting next year. Because of that, we won't have filing officer reports anymore, where departmental filing officers notify our office who has and who hasn't filed. We'll be able to see that ourselves in the system. So I think that we're already working on the things that they're looking at, not suggesting that their analysis is unnecessary or duplicative, but these are things that are very much already on our radar. Similarly with training, they're looking at training as well. I know that doesn't intuitively fall within the category of ethics reporting, but they do consider training to be within the scope of their project because officers have to attest to having completed training. As you know, they filed the ethics training and sunshine training certification. So they're kind of shoehorning training into this project through that certification. And as you know, in our last couple of budget requests, ramping up training has been a huge priority. So I think that we're really on the same page with the Controller's Office as to what issues are important when it comes to ethics. And I think that when we see the report come out, we'll see what additional insights they have, and we'll pursue those just like we have with behested payments and gifts, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, hopefully we'll hear from them soon. I mean, I recognize that with the proposed settlement on the recology, that why that is important for them to speak to, but I definitely don't want to have any further delays on the disclosure issues. With respect to the gift regulations, and I do appreciate your identifying possible areas for review and consideration for the IP meeting. So please let us know once you've are ready to schedule those, so that again, 2 commissioners can join each one of the 2 meetings, and let me know if there's a spot available. And then with respect to the behested payment legislation, I saw the update from Supervisor Haney, and if you could just give a brief update on which committee it's in and when we might expect to get through the meet and confirm process so that it could be heard in committee.
Sure. So the ordinance is currently pending before the Rules Committee. As I mentioned last month, Supervisor Haney introduced substitute legislation. So there's a second version of this ordinance now that brings it much more into line with the recommendation that you unanimously approved in November of last year. So that's a really positive development. But before the Rules Committee can hear it, the city does need to meet and confer with employee bargaining units. And we just scheduled that meeting to happen on April 20th. So together with Supervisor Haney's office, I'll be meeting with whatever bargaining units want to talk with us about this legislation and explaining what it does, why it's important to do this, and what kind of training and support would be available for those who are subject to the rule so that they understand it and can comply with it. As to when we can finish that, it's hard to say. You never know how these things will go. I can say that with the meet and confer for the biennial code review for the list of Form 700 filers, the last 2 times we've done that, there's been one actual initial meeting with all the bargaining units where we have a discussion, and then about 2 or so weeks of email exchanges to answer questions. They'll always have follow-up questions, or they'll request information from us, and we'll put that together and share that. And then at the end of that written communication process, 2, maybe 3 weeks, then DHR will issue a closure letter where they will say, we've met with you, we've answered all of your questions, and at this point we consider the process to be done. So I think if we can follow that model, then we would be looking at possibly the first week of May, maybe the second week of May, the meet and confer would be done. And I believe that once that's done, that then the Rules Committee is free to take that item up.
Okay, if you can just continue to keep us posted so we know, and if necessary, we can weigh in. Commissioner Lee, you had your hand up if you wanted to comment or question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question regarding the gift rule. I've been trying to look for best practices around the country, addressing some of the loopholes, if you might, that we might want to look at, like the BFFs, the cultural issues, and everything else. And I remember a couple of meetings ago, you invited your counterpart from the Hawaii Ethics Commission. She mentioned her commission was looking at a complete ban on gifting. And given Hawaii's rich culture, that, you know, I'm really interested to see how that has fared in the community. So can you get us any updates on that particular rule that they were proposing or they have already enacted? I forgot her name, so my apologies.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember too. Yeah, and I will also be curious to see how that project unfolded. I've kind of waited until the gift phase of the project to really focus on that, but I will be eager to see where they are in that as well, and I'll definitely include that with our analysis.
Thank you.
I'm
Unrelated.
muted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm having some technical issues. That's why my video is off. This is Commissioner Chu. I'm not ignoring you. I'm losing sound and video, so I will settle for sound if I can.
Okay. And I don't see that Commissioner Bell has been able to rejoin us yet. Is that correct? Hopefully it is possible to leave and come back, but I'm sure he's just delayed. Commissioner Bush, you had your hand up. You're muted, Commissioner Bush.
Oh. Well, there is that, isn't there? Thank you. The San Jose media has come out with a analysis from their report of lobbyists. And apparently the lobbyist disclosures in San Jose are a little deeper and broader than what we do in ours. So it includes all communications that take place, not just the fact that a communication took place, but what the communication was. Copies of emails and notes on phone calls and all the rest of it, which allowed for a much greater picture of efforts to influence their city's decisions. Have we given any consideration as we look at what we're doing to see whether or not that can be incorporated either as a interpretation of our current disclosures or a new requirement? And secondly, in looking at the lobbyist filings, I see a number of filings where lobbyists report being paid $9,000 or more in a month, but making no contacts with the city. Month after month, $9,000, which appears to be a contract payment that goes, but they're being paid $9,000 a month and making no contacts with the city. And I find that unlikely. So are you taking any look at a deeper dive in just analyzing how many lobbyists report making no contacts but getting paid? Just a plain number. Thank you.
Sure. So to your second question, I think I'd probably want to connect with John Kim, who administers our lobbyist program, to ask him if that's something that he's looking at. And he is the staff member who has the most direct involvement with that program as the administrator. So I think I'd like to ask him. Likewise with enforcement, if there's a non-compliance issue, probably want to talk with enforcement to see if that's something they're looking at. So yeah, that's something we could definitely look into. And then on the first question about San Jose lobbyist disclosures, yeah, I'd be curious to see that. I don't know if there's any specific information that you've come across that you could share with me that would be of interest. I can also do a look at it myself. As you know, it's not lobbying rules are not something that we've scoped out as part of this project. We've wanted to focus specifically at Article 3 rules here. So that's conflict of interest rules, ethics rules, gift rules, et cetera. Haven't really looked at including the chapter on lobbying laws in this project. That's something that's been on the list of potential policy projects. It has not been taken up at this time. So
I'll send you the articles that have appeared in the San Jose media, which gives a pretty good account of lobbyists. I think they do the top 10 lobbyists and what their contacts are, and specifically. And I had asked the same question. I think I sent it to Executive Director Pelham to ask whether we were doing anything with this. But I'd be happy to send it directly to staff.
Yeah, please do send me that. I'd be curious to look at that myself.
Will do. Thank you.
And Commissioner Bush, do you mind sending it to me also? I would love to read it.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead then and ask the moderator to call for public comment on this matter. And but before I do, Pat, I'm assuming that this will be something that you'll keep us briefed on a monthly basis, because it seems now we're finally in a position where some of this is going to move. The behested payments legislation will be moving, and then hopefully we'll get some consensus about what, at least through the IP meetings and our next commission meeting, where we want to go with the gift rules. So we'll see you back here in May. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think two really important things are happening at the same time here. Number one is Michael Canning joining our team. So that's going to be really a watershed moment here, and we will have a ton more capacity to really move phase 2 forward. And then also, just as you mentioned, the behested payment ordinance moving forward, that could mean that it requires less of my time because it moves forward to completion, or it could mean that it requires more of my time now, depending on how it goes at the board. I don't know, but just the fact that it's moving forward will definitely allow phase 2 to get going now with Michael's help.
Yes, well, and I expect when it does move forward that's where we're going to see maybe more engagement from the nonprofit community about that process of behesting payments. I'm also expecting that we're going to see more from the controller's office and the board as they look at those issues around avoiding city rules through the use of nonprofits to expend gift funds that are not permitted to be expended directly or to be received directly by the department head. So I think it will be a really rich conversation. I see that Commissioner Bell has joined us again. Welcome back. We did take items out of order with the hopes that you'd be able to hear agenda item number 7. So we've already done the executive director's report and agenda items for future meetings, numbers 8 and 9. And we're just about to call for public comment on agenda item 7, which is the policy report that addressed the potential new gift rules and process for doing outreach to the public to get feedback on some of the ideas that staff member Pat Ford laid out in the staff report. And also, although we didn't talk about it in any detail, we do have a copy of the amended behested payments legislation that finally Supervisor Haney was able to attend to and reintroduce at the board. And we would expect that to come up for committee hearings, could potentially be sometime in May. So hopefully that'll move before the board gets diverted by the budget in July. And I didn't know if you had any questions or comments about anything in agenda item 7. I was going to have the moderator go ahead and read the instructions for public comment if you want to think
Please
about
do.
that.
Please do. And thank you for bringing me up to speed.
All right. So Mr. Moderator, please read the instructions for public comment.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you've just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 7, discussion of staff policy report. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. We have no callers in the queue, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Public comment is closed on agenda item number 7, and per our reordering of items, I'm going to now call agenda item number 10, which is additional opportunity for public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda pursuant to Ethics Commission bylaws, Article 7, Section 2. If any member of the public intend to offer public comment for this item, they should dial in now and enter *3 to be added to the public comment queue. Oh, I'm sorry. Something's wrong with my notes here. But anyway, I think that's the correct item, agenda item number 10. Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. If those are already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 10, additional opportunities for public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda pursuant to the Ethics Commission bylaws, Article 7, Section 2. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online for an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. And as a reminder, public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the Commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Once again, written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. There are no callers in the queue, Madam Chair.
All right, so public comment on agenda item number 10 is closed, and that takes us to agenda item number 11, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Commissioner Chu, and seconded by Commissioner Lee. All right, can you please call the roll? Or no, we don't. Yeah, I guess we do have to call the roll on that. Mr. Moderator.
Oh, hold on. Please stand by. A motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Yes.
Chair Ambrose.
Yes.
With 5
So-
votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
All right, so we'll see you back here. The meeting is adjourned, and we'll be back here in May with the items that we discussed on future items. And then Commissioner Bell, if you, the staff from the executive director covers all the things that I think we discussed there. If you're interested, you can follow up directly with the director, and otherwise everyone take good care, and we'll see you at the next meeting. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you all.